Hello.
Hey, Harold.
It's 66 we're on? 67.
67.
67. Okay. I'll put that later. Okay.
Hi, everybody.
Hi, Annie.
Hi.
Okay, Rav Tameh, we're on Samech Zayin, 67. Tomorrow, our shear is at 6:20 in Shul.
Okay.
It says 6:10, I think, in the
That's Rabbi
Kalei.
Klaus.
6:20.
Ours is 6:20.
All right.
So Rav Tameh Domer Rav Hegdish Chometz V'Shichra Mafki Midei Shibud. This is a concept we've learned before. Let's say a person loaned money to somebody, and that person gave the lender collateral,
Okay.
and it was, let's say it was a warehouse full of whiskey. So if Pesach rolls around, so the whiskey becomes chametz, and therefore it's aser ba'anah, it's not worth anything. The guy can't collect, if he doesn't pay off, he can't collect from the whiskey, because the chametz on Pesach breaks the shibud. There's no lien anymore. Let's say the person donated the warehouse to Beis Hamikdash. He made it hegdish. Then there's nothing to collect. If the guy doesn't have money, it's a mechanism of getting rid of the lien. So you have to be careful about that. And similarly, if you have avodim and you free them, they're not avodim anymore. So a lender has to be careful what he accepts as collateral. He has to know halacha. He has to be careful. Don't accept something that's chametz. Don't accept avodim. Now, regarding hegdish, there's no way out on that one, because every person could be magdish whatever he wants at any time. So that's almost, there's no guarantee to a lender accepting collateral of any kind, because the owner of the collateral could be magdish it, and then it wipes out your collateral. the wife brought in 2 Ming vases. Together, they were worth $1,000. And it was written in the ksuba that it's $1,000, and that's what he has to provide. Now they went up in value. Each one's worth $1,000. So one of them she gets that fulfills the ksuba obligation. Now, if she wants the other kli, she has to pay the Baal 1,000. She has a right to do it, and he has to sell it to her, but she has to pay for it because it went up in price, and it goes up in price for him because he guaranteed it. So my kamashwan shvach beisavia didav. What's the chiddush? That since it came from the father's house belongs to her. We already said that. That's where she was going to take it back because it was the full value in the ksuba. So it belongs to her. But to be able to pay money and to take it out of his possession, we might have thought that doesn't work. That does work. Mishnah. Bas Yisrael shenisis lekoyin. You have a Jewish girl marries a koyin. Magda came from a regular Pasha to Yisrael. Mr. Muller was a Pasha to Yisrael.
No, he was a Levi.
Okay, but he didn't eat truma. He didn't eat truma.
No.
Okay, so Magda marries Harold. Now she's allowed to eat truma. So a regular Jewish girl marries a kohen. Now the problem is if that kohen should pass away, chas v'shalom, v'nicha muberes, and she's pregnant. Lo yochlu avdeh b'truma. During the pregnancy, she's not allowed to eat truma. Let's see Rashi. Afal pi sheyesh lo bonim hemena, v'hi ocheles b'truma. Now, let's say they have sons, and the father died, but they're kohanim. So the wife continues to eat truma. But we're talking about the avodim that were guaranteed by the husband. Lo yochlu avdei zon barzel b'truma. Why? Lefi shehein shel yorshim. They belong to the heirs. V'yesh le'uber bahen chelik. The fetus is a future heir. However, ein le'uber koach la'achilam b'truma. A pregnant woman, the fetus is not enough to be able to feed either the wife or, for example, let's say there were no other children. During pregnancy, she can't eat truma, but once she has a child, she's allowed to eat truma. Not only that, he's the owner of the avodim. So once he's born, he's allowed to allow them to eat truma. Either mishum d'ksaver uber b'meizara zarhu. Now, there are two reasons why the fetus might not feed the avodim. Either you hold that a fetus, as long as it's not born yet, it's not a kohen. It's considered a non-kohen. Or the general rule, Yilod Michael, Shein Yilod Ein Michael. Only a live person can be Michael. Shenemar Vilid Beis Sohem Yochlu B'Achveh. You have to be born. Shah Uber Poisel. An Uber Pasels. Now, in Bas Kohen, this is Yisrael. Let's say a Bas Kohen who is eating truma in her father's house. Then she marries a Yisrael. V'nicha muberes, and she's pregnant, and he dies. Normally, when the husband of a Bas Kohen dies, she goes back to her father's house to eat truma. But now she's pregnant, and she has if she has another son, she eats, but he doesn't have another son. She can't go back to her father's house because the Torah says she can go back if she's if she's still, immature. Veno Machil, and also that Uber doesn't allow avodim to eat or to her to eat. Divrei Rabbi Yosi. Armru lo me'achar shehei adat al Bas Yisrael kohen He told us about a bas Yisrael kohen av bas kohen lekohen v'meis. V'nicham uberes lo yochel avadeh b'truma. Even a bas kohen who marries a kohen, and that kohen dies, since it's a problem with the Yerusha of the Uber, it's the same story. They wouldn't eat truma either. So iboilu time of Rabbi Yossi mishum t'ksover Uber meizur. Why does Rabbi Yossi say that the Uber puzzles? Either because an Uber b'meizara, a fetus in the womb of a non-kohen is a non-kohen. Or dilma yilud Michael, only a child born can feed. What if the wife was a bas kohen? Maybe she's not a zar. He holds that the reason why Rabbi Yossi says an uber puzzles is because an uber in a non-kohen's belly is a non-kohen. Rabbi Yosef says the reason is Yilud Michael Shein Yilud Eina Michael. So Meisri, Armel Rabbi Yosef Me'achar She'at Alai was Bas Shel Kohen, Bas Kohen LeKohen Ma'u. Armel Lahem Zu Shamati V'Zu Lo Shamati. I had heard the halacha regarding a Bas Yisrael. I didn't hear the halacha about a Bas Kohen. Now, if you're going to tell me that the reason of Rabbi Yossi is because the fetus in the womb of a non-kohen is a non-kohen, I understand why because he hadn't heard it, and therefore there's a difference in halacha. Because if I had heard it, the bas kohen who is married to a kohen would feed because he's not a zar. But if it has to do with being born, then it's the same case. Kasha, Zudi Rabbi Yossi. Rabbi Yossi says that a fetus puzzles, but the Chachamim say if the kohen had leftover sons, the avodim can eat because of the sons. Ein lo banim oichlim mishum achim. The kohen has brothers. Ein lo achim oichlim mishum mishpacha kulam. The family of a kohen. So Gemara says, Zu v'lo svirale? What do you mean? Is Shmuel saying this is the halacha, but I don't hold like that? That's the problem. Go bring me 10 people. The part that I'll say in front of their face. Somebody accepts a lottery ticket on the behalf of a fetus. You can do it because Shmuel holds that an Uber has its own kinyan. That's the sheet of Rabbi Yossi. Elazu Svirale. So in a Chanami, Shmuel holds of Rabbi Yossi. My Kamash wanted to plead Rabbanon aled Rabbi Yossi. What? Do the Rabbanon argue? Umi pligi. They don't argue. Masif Rab Zakai. Zu Edus Heid Rabbi Yossi Mipi Shmai Vavtayon. This is testimony from the Zugos Shmai Vavtayon. V'hoidu lo. And the Chachamim agreed to Rabbi Yossi. Amr Vashi Miktani v'kiblu. Doesn't say they were Hoidu lo. They accepted his svara, but didn't paskin like him. If the kohen died, but he left over sons, both the avdei malug and the avdei tzon barzel eat truma. Inichamu beres, if he only left her pregnant, elu velu ein oichli. Iniach banim v'inichamu beres. What if he had sons and a pregnancy? Avdei malug ochlin. The avdei malug which belong to her eat because she eats, because she has sons. So she's the one that's the source of feeding those avodim. But avdei tzon barzel lo yochlu, because they belong to him. And since the Uber, the Chalka Shal Uber is going to inherit, and the Shal Uber Poisov, I know Machal de Rabbi Yossi. Like we said, Rabbi Yossi holds that the Uber, his share ruins the inheritance. Rabbi Shmuel, Rabbi Yossi, Rabbi Shmuel Aviv, Habas, it depends. Habas macheles. If there's a daughter, then the avodim will eat. But if he has a son, a ben eno machil. The Gemara will explain all of this. Rav Shimon ben Yochai Omer Zechorim, if he has male children, Yochlu Kulon, all the avodim will eat. But nekevos lo yochlu. But the females will not eat. Shema yimotzei uber zocher, because maybe the fetus will be a male. Vein lebanos b'makom ben klum. Then the bonois don't inherit if there's a son, so there wouldn't be a yerusha for her at all. If it's only a bas, she'll get everything. That's why she feeds. But when there's a ben, the bonos don't get anything in the avodim. The uber can't feed if the uber is a zocher. Now, my area shema yimotzei uber zocher. Tebel the nekeva nami pasla. Why did you say only the uber zocher apostles? Even the nekeva can't allow them to eat. If the rest of the children in nekevas are female, so this nekeva will also get yerusha, because when there's no sons, the females do inherit him. So the uber, who cares if it's a male uber? If it's a female uber, it's the same thing. If the uber was a female, would also passel. And if the fetus is a male, the daughters will not inherit anything. Then Reb Shimon Yochai said, "Zacharim yoichlu." How could they eat? Vayikar uber. I thought the uber maybe it has a chelik in the yerusha and prevents them from eating. Savar ein choshen lemiyuta. Yeah, but it's less than 50% that there's going to be a male, because it's generally 50-50 male-female. But then there are miscarriages, so it's less than 50%. And we're not chayish for less than 50%. We are concerned about the minority. We make a takana, like Rav Nachman Amar Shmuel. Rav Nachman Amar Shmuel. Let's say you have heirs, but that are under bar mitzvah, and they have to divide the father's estate. Beis din ma'amidim lahem apotropos. The Beis Din appoints an executor. Ubar lahem chelek yof, and they choose for them a good portion. Then im higdilu, once they become above 13, they can protest and choose another one. But Rav Nachman didei omer igdilu en yichol limchos. Dim kein ma korech Beis Din yofe. What's the whole point of Beis Din appointing an executor if they can go against it? Here as well, we can be mezakeh for this fetus a certain amount of the assets of the dead father, and the other avodim will be divided among the remaining sons, and everybody can eat truma. But you can't hold like that by if they're daughters, because eventually if the fetus is born and it's a male, it all belongs to him. So Lemer Rav Nachman Tanoihi? Is Rav Nachman proposing that it's machlekes Tanoim? That he holds like Rav Shimon the Chachamim argue? No. Kulam Yislud Rav Nachman. Everybody holds of this sheet of Rav Nachman. Hacha, b'choshen lemi'ute kamaflagi. They argue whether you worry that the uber is going to be a zocher because it's a minority. Rav Yishmael, Rav Yossi, Rav Shemaviv. Abbas machila, haben eno machil. If there's a daughter and no son, the avodim eat because she's the heir. But if there's males, the avodim will not eat. Because it's a pregnancy at the sons, if there's only sons, So they are going to share the inheritance with the fetus, and that ruins the ability to feed the truma. Bas nami lo tachlim lechalka shalubra. However, a bas also should be the same thing because of the uber. Remember, a very small Yerusha, and only enough to provide for the daughters until they're adult. So the Chacham made a takuna that the daughters get it, and the sons don't get the Yerusha. Kagon de'ika ben bahadi bas. There's already a son and a daughter. Mimonavshach. Abra. If the wife is pregnant and it's a son, ben uloyad my dekoy. It's not any better than the son that's alive. Ibasi, if the Uber is a bus, amay achla, why would anybody be eating? It's just b'takon to the rabbanon, because it's the takon of the rabbanon to feed the bonois with what's left of the Yerusha. But the takon is only once a child is born. Since this child is not born, there's no takon as chachon. Now, therefore, the case is only b'mayu kimtim and chasim muatim, when the estate is very small. Well, aim a seifa. The seifa says shema yimotzei ober zachar. Maybe the fetus will be found to be a male, and then the daughters don't stand to inherit it. Or says other Rabbah. It's even the chasim muatim the bonus ninu. It's good to have daughters because they get the whole thing, so they should feed these slaves. So the Gemara says seifa asalon no chasim rub. The seifa is back when there's a lot of assets. When the chasim muatim the bonus ninu, but if you're left with small amount of assets, the daughters get all of it. If the orphans went ahead and sold the assets, even if they were little assets, masha machru machru, you can't reverse it. Elamai bastik tani, maybe they're talking about the mother, not the daughter, means a female, and a mother also can be machil the avdei malug, because the Yorshim don't have a chelik there. And the son cannot be machil the son barzo because of the uber. So Yachan Rabbi Yossi. Well, that's no different than the sheet of Rabbi Yossi, which we've been learning all along. The Gemara says, "Kul Rabbi Yishmael, Rabbi Yossi Ktani La." It's the whole price is Rabbi Yishmael. Mishnah. Uber will passel. We said a bas kohen. Bas kohen marries a Yisrael, and he dies. The husband, she can't go back to her father's house to eat truma, and doesn't feed the avodim if she's pregnant. Now, the hayavim, you have a bas kohen who was married to Reuven. Reuven dies, and the bas kohen falls to Shimon and Yibum. So that passels her from going back to her father's house. Or let's say Reuven is married to a bas Yisrael, and Reuven dies, and she falls to Shimon, who's a kohen. So just as a shomeres yah, lady in waiting, she doesn't need truma yet. Uber vayobim va'erusin, right? A bas kohen gives kiddushin to a Yisrael girl. Right, even kiddushin given to a bas kohen, she can't eat truma. A bas Yisrael who has kiddushin to a kohen can't eat truma yet, only until nesuin. V'acheresh, a deaf mute, who gave kiddushin to a woman, uben teisha shana v'yom echad, or a boy 9 years old or over who had relations. Gemara will explain what that is. Or suffix she'eno. We don't know whether, in these cases, poison v'lo machilim. They don't eat truma if someone was a bas kohen and can't cause either Yisraelis or avodim to eat. Because Cherish doesn't have kinyan. Safek shu ben tesha shav yom echad, safek she'eno. Safek hevi shtei shav safek sheloivim. We don't know he's an adult. Novel abayis alav abas achiv. A house collapsed on the person and on his niece. When you do eze meis rishon. We're talking about where it's his wife. But we don't know who died first. If he died first, and then they follow Yibum, and the Tzara is Potter because of Tzara Sabas, because he was married to to his brother's daughter. But maybe the girl died first, and there was no Tzara, and then maybe you could do the Tzaras would be mutter. So. No, we don't allow Yibum, we only allow Chlitza. Because it's Safek. We go L'chumra. Whereas our Uber, we said that if a Bas Kohen married to Yisrael and the Yisrael dies, and he left her pregnant, she can't go back to her father's house to eat Truma. Our Uber, Bas Kohen Yisrael, he pasal law, it pasals her from eating Truma. Ibas Kohen Yisrael, Kinu Urea, because when she goes back to her father's house, she has to be like when she was a Nara. Prat Lamu Beres. Ibas Yisrael Kohen, Lo Machila. Ibas Yisrael to a Kohen, and he dies, and he only left her with a fetus, because Yilud Machil, Shen Yilud and Machil. Only a child born will feed, but not a fetus. Hayavim. He said, Ibas Kohen Yisrael. Reuven's wife was a Bas Kohen, falls to Shimon after his death. He pasal law. She's waiting for Shimon to do Yibum or Chlitza. She can't eat Truma at her father's house because it says, V'shava el Beisavia, Prat l'Shemer Yom. It's a Torah exclusion. She can't go back anymore. Ibas Yisrael Kohen. Let's say Shimon is a Kohen and Reuven's wife was a Bas Yisrael. Lo Machila, just through being a lady in waiting. Kinyan Kaspam Rachmana. Va Kinyan Dachivu. He hasn't done a Kinyan in her yet. It's her brother Reuven did a Kinyan, not him. And then it says Vayrusin Bas Kohen Yisrael Pasal law. A Bas Kohen who gets kiddushin from a Yisrael cannot hakanya bavi. There's a kinyan, so she can't go back to her father's house to eat truma. Okay, we'll stop here. So tomorrow 6:20.